personal goal to establish 12,000 transformation councils in the world, and in the next 15 years, 120,000 legitimate history makers. 120,000 legitimate history makers that have a movement, have a project. So this started to impact Bulgaria, and all of that happened in Bulgaria in a 4-year period. So now what we do is we gather these people into a once-a-year conference where we showcase. We don't have big name speakers. If you're a preacher there, even if I preach, you're limited to a half hour, because the bulk of the time is given to people presenting their drug rehab ministries, presenting their financial training ministries, we're just presenting nameless, faceless, average people who came through the system, built their own system of reaching people, and now the gospel of the kingdom becomes systemic throughout Bulgaria, and all hell and heaven is breaking loose. Wow. Now, just to give you another example, Namibia, Africa. I've never even been to Nigeria, although I've received so many invitations to Nigeria. I've tried 2 or 3 times, and something always gets in the way. And the Lord told me I'm not to go until Pastor Sunday goes first, which is interesting. So I'm in Namibia, though. So I'm going to Namibia. We're doing the same thing. They've set up their councils based on themes. They have a business council, family mountain council, different councils that they're establishing. In our work there, I was invited by the First Lady's office to speak and hold training there. I spoke in their parliament on kingdom principles that are enforced through systems. So putting systems in place. And it was kind of cool to be able to applaud them. Now that I understood systems and the value of it, the world's doors were opening to me as a speaker. Whether it was governments, churches, whoever. And again, I'm the guy that the only reason I think I passed math was because I went in for extra help, and she just said, we're going to pass you because you work so hard. This is somebody that it didn't come naturally to me. But now the world's doors were opening because everybody wants to be more efficient. People want results. We're in a result-oriented culture now. So now I was seeing it, and they lost my bag in the Johannesburg airport because some system broke down somewhere. But then when I arrived in Namibia, I noticed how they had when you walk off the plane, even though they didn't have the big gate, that you walk through so that you remain indoors, they had just the pavement, the parking, but they had a line that you were to follow. And there was somebody standing here, like a worker standing here, a worker standing there, making sure that you followed this line. It was so interesting to see some Americans trying to cut the line, because why follow the system if we can cut the line and get there faster, and seeing these Namibian workers keeping everybody in line. So I was able to share this with their government about the importance of systems and this kind of thing. And the whole time I'm shaking my head thinking, I was just a youth pastor like 2 years ago. This systems thing is opening up the door to the nations. The Namibian government, because of the work we've done there now, like for example, in one of the shanty town, so way outside of the developed Windhoek area, we've put in now, because the women when they would get up in the night to go to the toilet, they had to walk a distance and they were being raped, taken advantage of. We've put in toilets and sewer systems so they can shower, they can, we're making history. And the Namibian government said, we had blocked evangelistic ministries from coming into the country because you come in and you hold crusades. You take up massive offerings and you leave the country without paying taxes. This was the issue. And what they identified, they said, we welcome History Maker Society into the country because you are equipping Namibians to rebuild Namibia. Finally, my prayers were getting answered of what it looks like to disciple nations. We cannot hope to fulfill the Great Commission and disciple nations without an understanding of system building. Because nations rise and fall on the principles and values they believe in that are enforced by systems. And so this just was whipping open doors for us. Now we're training trainers there. From there, Hong Kong has opened up. Hong Kong is another example where we're beginning a work there, because in the next 23 or 20-something years, they'll be swallowed up by China again. And they want to develop Hong Kong in such a way that it's like a Christian city. And that when they're swallowed up by China, they have they're like the seed, like the leaven. And so they want a 23 or 20-year plan, a system of how to do this. The Philippines has now opened up to us in the same way. And we're able to make history and not just preach the gospel, but set up systems that enforce and occupy territory. The final little story I tell you before we open up for Q&A. What's our time? What do you have? Ah, good. There's a large community of gypsy people, Roma people in Bulgaria. They're all over Europe, but there are gypsies in Bulgaria. And if you can believe it, we began to teach the more progressive gypsy communities about system building, which is just out of this world. And, one pastor went on to write a book, and different things began to happen. And they ended up creating a system of rehabilitation that takes a gypsy who's on like homeless level, takes them through a process from learning how to, learning about hygiene. We pay for them to have a shower weekly, all the way up to developing a business or reintegration into society. I'll never forget when the main pastor we work with there, who's now our director to the Roma people, he called me one day, noticeably, audibly emotional. And he said, "Pastor, we've been having missionaries come here for years, and God bless them. We've had incredible services, signs and wonders, healings, but the gypsies go back to their environment, and there's no transformation." He said, "For the first time since we created this system, we are seeing actual lasting traction and transformation among our gypsy people." And he's like weeping, and he's telling me about these gypsies that they're rehabilitating, and he says even some of them, they're getting computers, they're learning, we teach them why you need to reply to an email, what email is, and he's crying as he's saying this. We are developing and processing people. And so, we have stories of gypsy people now who have gone to school and gotten their degree in psychology, similar to what you see here, like unbelievable story, even physically looking different. Once we had, like one woman at the last conference we had in Bulgaria, she not only dressed different, but she physically looks different, like she got younger because of the processing. Maybe this is too much for us today. What the process can do, processing and organizing the kingdom. Amazing.